Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Drinking with Authors. I am your host, Nick Savage, and this episode, as every episode, is brought to you by Four Horsemen Publications, so head on down to their website and give them some love. Otherwise, this show doesn't happen. Joining us today, all the way from another publisher, and I'm going to let her tell you all about it, and this is actually our second time trying this because I had to ask how to pronounce her last name, Susie Langevin, and I'm hoping I said that right.
There you got it.
Welcome to the show, Susie. And
thanks for having me.
Tell us. It is. It's going to be fun. It's always fun. That didn't sound like I watched too much news segments there. Tell us about your books, because I know you have one that released in April, another one coming out in July.
Yes.
So have at it. Tell us all about you.
Absolutely. So I am predominantly a romance author. I really love the security of the happy ever after, and we know that we're going to take this journey and we're going to get there, and together we're going to get to a place that feels really good for the characters in the end. So my first novel that came out in April is American Royalty. We've got it right here. And it was really inspired by thinking about actually when Taylor Swift dated Connor Kennedy. So come with me here. That there was this pop star who got involved with like a scion of this political dynasty. And so I was thinking about sort of what happens after something like that. So it was this huge splash in the media. It was all over socials. People were talking about it. And then it ended and just kind of went away. So it's like, what happens on the other side of that interaction, and who kind of comes next in that lineup? So the story is about a young Senate staffer. Her name is Jasmine. She works in the office of this prominent U.S. senator, and his son has gotten involved with a pop star who then they break up, and she drops an absolutely scathing breakup song about him, and it goes viral on TikTok. So now Jasmine has to step in and clean up his image and rehab kind of this Playboy Prince image that his son has, because the senator is about to announce that he's running for president. So it's all about this interplay between who you are in public, who you are in private, who gets to see what. And throughout the course of the story, the two of them fall in love, and we get to see that blossom along the way.
Okay, so much to unpack in that one there. And I did get a chance to read some of the reviews and, of course, the blurb, and people really like the sweetness of it. And I understand it's not a sweet romance. It's an open door romance.
Yes.
But but it is very sweet in the sense that it is, like you said, the happily ever after and everything like that. Couple of things I want to ask you about. Happily ever afters. All right. So there's this big push more recently than not, that in order for a book to be romance, it needs to have that happily ever after at the end. How do you feel? Are you a strict and hard fast to that rule of if it's not a happily ever after, or is there room for leeway on that?
So there's two pieces to this. I think there are certainly stories that don't require a happy ever after. And I think there's so much room for understanding the different paths that relationships can take, and that love can look different for different people. I think if you're going to market something as a commercial romance and you want it shelved next to like Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez, that's a contract with the reader that they're going to go on this journey with you. And at the end, the characters are going to end up together and happy in whatever that looks like. So I think there is that sort of requirement for, if you're going to market your book as a romance, yes, that's where it has to end. But I also think there's some elasticity in what happy ever after can mean. I think there is opportunity to explore is a poly arrangement, the happy ever after for some characters, as long as everybody is in the know and consenting, and that's what they're looking for at the end of the story. So I don't think it has to be a strict like boy meets girl, boy marries girl kind of convention. There's a lot of different ways that we can explore identity and how that influences those outcomes. But the contract with the reader is, at the end of the day, whatever the central romance is in this story, that's going to end with that couple or whatever grouping getting what they want at the end of the story.
So where would you put then the books that don't have that happily ever after?
I think you can make them a romantic something else. So if it is romantic suspense, romantic tragedy, all of those kinds of things. There's room for romance and relationship, obviously, in tons of different stories. But if you're going to call it romance, you got to get to that happy ever after place.
I like this the syntax difference though. Not romance, romantic suspense instead of romance. Romantic doesn't necessarily mean the happily ever after. Romance does. Take the NCE to whatever. My spelling's great right now. Yeah. and I haven't been drinking. Speaking of drinking, what are you drinking today? Because I know.
So I have a polar seltzer. So I am from Central Massachusetts. I grew up in Worcester, and this is a local company to us here in Worcester that has been around for forever. So a few years ago, when like LaCroix and some of those other seltzers got super popular, it was really weird because we've been drinking like wacky flavored seltzers here in Central Mass for forever. So
couple of questions about Massachusetts and what you just said. One, did LaCroix ever really get popular or just well known? But that's a whole, LaCroix is more used as a meme.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I do love a good seltzer, so I'm not dogging you on that. I'm just dogging LaCroix because they don't sponsor us. We need sponsors, folks. The other, and well, how do you spell the town you're from?
Yes, so it's Worcester. So it's like Worcestershire sauce, but take the sheer off the end. It's Worcester. Now, if you're really from here, you don't say Worcester, you say Worcester, because we don't like ours in this part of the world. But technically, there is one on the end, even if for us it's silent.
And if you are from Massachusetts, how far from Boston are you that you have absolutely zero accent?
So we're about an hour-ish outside the city. Okay. Worcester's the second biggest city in Massachusetts. So we're about an hour outside of Boston, maybe a little less if you drive as fast as I do. But I actually have trained myself largely to not have a Boston/Worcester accent. I was a theater kid growing up. So with performing and doing all of those kinds of things, you learn how to sort of present yourself without that. Yeah. But my college roommate used to make so much fun of me because the minute I would pick up the phone and be calling like my mom, it would immediately pop back into my voice. And she was like, you sound like an entirely different person the second your mom picks up the phone. I was like, it's just, it's elastic. It's what we do. I don't know.
No, I understand completely. Like I try and control it and I'm bad at it, but I have a fairly thick Chicago accent when I start talking about Chicago, or especially start talking with family. And so I definitely understand that. The other thing, right now there's a small soccer game going on, and there were some people from overseas in the Boston area, but you're about an hour outside. Have you been affected by that at all?
They haven't quite made it out as far as where we are in Central Mass. Though we have had more than a few statues have cones pop up on the top. So that element of the Tartan Army has, in fact, made it out to Central Mass. But Worcester's actually known for being like a gateway city. We have a ton of people who live here who are new immigrants, particularly from Africa. So a number of my colleagues at my job are from Ghana originally. So yesterday was a very big deal with the Ghana-England match. And it was a very thrilling thing for everyone when Ghana held them to a draw. So that was very exciting around these parts.
So my question is it as fun to be there in the midst of it all as it looks like it is on social media? Like, it looks like a ton of fun.
Oh, it's just been so much fun to see all of the different sort of people rallying around it. We have a local movie theater that played the USA game when they were playing last week. So we went there, and it was just so much fun to be hanging out with other people who were cheering, and the World Cup kind of fever has been really exciting around these parts.
And bringing it back to the books, because I got a little sidetracked. It happens. It's what ADD does to you. You play in American Royalty on the public versus the private persona. In the media nowadays, and I think kind of because of social media, because of just mass media in general, not necessarily social media, people almost expect from musicians, from movie stars, especially from politicians, that their private persona be their public persona.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel about that, and how do you balance the intricacies of trying to be the same while having to almost still separate out the
that was one of the most interesting parts about crafting, in particular, Tripp's character, the male lead who is the son of a senator, because not only is he this figure who's sort of quasi-public, but he didn't choose it. It's because his family has been involved in politics for such a long time. And there's obviously, great benefits that come along with a life like that. His family is very wealthy. He's had a very privileged existence. But at the same time, his life since he was a small child has been public property. And that's very much sort of like the JFK Jr. archetype of this person who really grew up in the spotlight without much say in whether or not that was going to be their life. And so he has a line in the book where they're talking about releasing a press release about something, and he says, I'm pretty sure there was a press release to say that I was fucking potty trained. Like, this has been his life for as long as he's known it. And so getting to carve out a life that is just his and not kind of public property becomes this really interesting interplay between he and Jasmine, because Jasmine is a Senate staffer. She has no public profile and yet is going to be pulled into this very public world. And so that has to be a part of the conversation about their relationship, is people are going to talk about you on the internet. And before you get involved with me, you need to understand what that's actually going to look like. So it's a really kind of interesting lens to play with that idea of there's these expectations that are heaped on me because of who I am. Are you willing to kind of come along and be a part of that with me? Because I don't know any other life. I don't know any other way that this is going to be. So that was a really interesting thing to kind of get to play with. There's a secondary character in the book who is the daughter of another senator who is actually gay. And there's a big theme in the book around her ability or inability to come out because of her dad's political career. And so we get a couple different lenses on this public versus private, and what information are people owed about you to understand you and where you come from, and where do those lines kind of start and stop when it's your family legacy. So those were kind of some fun themes to get to play around with in the book.
No, that's very, very well said, which is great, and makes me have such a hard time segueing this into anything else. So let's move on to. I just like, sometimes people will talk and I'll be like, oh, now I have another question. Like, no, that was so perfectly explained. I'm like, I got nothing else. Which is, I guess, the way it's supposed to be. You have a book coming out though in July.
Yes.
And tell us about that, the title, what it's about, all that fun stuff.
So I've got my copy of that one here too, because I brought props.
Yes.
The book that is coming out in July is called The Plus One Pact. It is another romance, because that's what I do. And I have really described this book as like the book of my heart. I think sometimes writers talk about the story that they want to tell that's just for them. If other people get it and enjoy it, great, but it's really the process is for them and the product is for them. So it tells the story of this young woman named Alyssa who has been hopelessly in love with her best friend from back home for a number of years. But that guy has been in this back and forth relationship with another girl since high school, and that couple is now getting married. So Alyssa has to face this idea that this is never going to happen, and I have to go to this wedding, and I don't want to do it alone. So her roommate says, why don't you have my brother go with you? And her roommate's brother, Jeff, he's just graduated law school. He's a super high achiever, has had a lot of expectations heaped on him from his dad about being sort of the next him. And as a result, is really grappling with a pretty significant anxiety disorder. So throughout the course of the book, we sort of see Alyssa kind of coming to terms with, can I move past this, what has been this really significant relationship with my best friend in my life, and let it go to be able to be with somebody new? And Jeff really grappling with this idea of, how do I become the person that I think this woman deserves? Because he falls very hard, very fast for her, but it really is kind of a slow burn throughout the book until they get to the point where they're both ready for this relationship. So you get to see both of their internal evolution and how they really get to this point where they're able to say yes to each other.
Now, I did read, because I know that right now it's ARC copies that are out there and stuff
Yes.
like that, and one of them said that his dark passenger is anxiety, and I just love the use of that. Was that something that just like the reviewer came up with, or do you refer to the character's anxiety as a dark passenger? And I'm just
so that was the reviewer's language, which I do also love. But in the book, Jeff does refer to it as his constant companion. That this is this thing that he just cannot shake, even when he knows that it's getting in the way of the things that he wants. And so one of the things that I really loved about writing this book, I'm a therapist by training, and so we actually see a few of Jeff's therapy sessions in the book. So it's a dual POV book. We see it from both Alyssa and Jeff's point of view, and there's actual depictions of what it looks like to get treatment and cognitive behavioral therapy for anxiety disorder, so that people can see, kind of peek behind the curtain as to what this process can look like to move through to the other side of this anxiety.
Dual POV. A lot of
Yes.
authors do it. I think almost every author does it. You know what I'm saying? If they have more than like a few books out, because you just experiment and stuff. Some authors will sit there and label chapters. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this chapter's from this point of view. Is that how you handle that, or do you just like different?
They're not
voices?
labeled, but they alternate. So it's and they're also, it's written in third person. So it's like a deep third from each of their POVs. So you don't have the confusion of who's I right now. You know it's Jeff or you know it's Alyssa, but their chapters alternate. So you kind of get into the rhythm of it as you go, which as a writer is a super fun exercise. Of sometimes I would be working on the manuscript and there would just be a chapter that says, IDK, Jeff does something here. And then we'd go to Alyssa's next chapter because I was like in the zone with her character and her voice. And poor Jeff had to come along a little bit later on.
I am going to make an assumption based on that's how you do some of your chapters, that you are not necessarily a total pantser, but not as much a plotter as maybe others.
I'm not. And so I like to refer to myself as a slightly reformed pantser. I had the really wonderful opportunity a couple of years ago to be a part of a mentorship program called the Kiss Bitch Mentorship. And Sarah Vance Tompkins, who was my mentor, who is another romance author who is just incredible, introduced me to a concept called a beat sheet, because we were working through like my process and what that looks like. And I was like, I don't know. I just open the thing and go. She's like, yeah, you're writing a series here. You need a little bit more structure to your life. Let me show you what this looks like. And so using the beat sheets, I'm kind of able to give the broad context of where I want the story to go, but we fill in the details as we go. And I say we because it really is like a co-creation exercise with you and the characters. Sometimes they go off in like another direction entirely. I'm like, well, that's not where I thought this was going to go, but all right, let's see where it goes. And people who are not writers look at you like you've lost it when you say that. But anybody who is a pantser is like, nope, I'm with you. I totally get how that happens.
No. I definitely think characters do, because characters are in essence living, breathing people, and you're just kind of putting their story on the page, but it has to go in, you know, a certain direction to get to the general idea of where the story is heading.
Yep.
what beat sheets did she introduce you to a specific website with beat sheets, or was it just the idea of this happens here, here, and here on these like pages or word count type stuff?
The format that we worked from and that I would recommend to anybody who is interested in writing romance is from the book Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes. And it really gives you the structural components of a standard romance novel. And the nice part is that once you know what those are, you can play with them, you can move them around. They don't have to go in the exact same order or follow the exact same structure. There's a lot of room to play within it. But once you have sort of those guardrails, you get a sense of, okay, these are the general components, how I want those to line up. Here's where I want like a twist or a surprise to come in. And that structure and that book in general, I found to be really helpful to just wrap your head around structurally, where do you want this to go?
And I do want to say too that there are you see reviews sometimes when you're, looking at books and stuff like that. And they'll be like, the characters didn't seem authentic or whatever it is. And I think that if the characters aren't allowed to be authentic to themselves because the author's either trying to strict too rigidly to the plot they lined out, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It can then come across as forced and then unauthentic, or if they just do things so wildly because the authors are just going off points, on the other side of that kind of statement.
Absolutely.
I am a huge proponent of beat sheets because I think it helps carry the story forward in a pace that is comfortable to the reader, you know what I'm saying? And familiar, because if it's too slow burn, they're going to be like, dude, it's been like 80 pages. What's
going to happen?
Yeah. Like, it's been like 3 chapters. What's the inciting incident? And you're just like, oh, I should have done that, back in like the first 10 pages. And I love the Save the Cat. If you've never seen that website. Yes, absolutely love Save the Cat. My one gripe with it is if you put in like novel form, you know what I'm saying? It's like, in these pages, this is when this. Well, what's the trim size of the pages they're talking about? Are they talking like the manuscript format when they're 8.5 by 11 manuscripts? Right. You know what I'm saying? And they're double spaced and Times Roman, because that makes sense. But if you get authors who are like, well, I write in the trim size, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, well, you're going to have like a 9,000 page book based on these.
I know. And my brain could never do that. I know a lot of people will use like Scrivener or other really fancy like tools to write in. I write on a Google Doc, like on my phone. This is how most of my work happens.
I used to do that. And then what happened is, okay, so I have my office it's a room. You know what I'm saying? It's like a 12 by 12 foot room. And in order to save space, I converted the closet into my writing desk.
Okay.
So like, instead of having like anything in the closet, I have my desk. And at one point when I was using Google Maps, and I have to talk about this for a second, I was using Google Docs, and in order to map out my book, I had like the index cards, and if you know beat sheets, you have your index cards help plot out and everything like that. The inside of my closet ended up looking like a Charlie Day linchpin, it's always
red
sunny.
strings everywhere.
Red strings everywhere. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I mean, it was a complex series I was working on with, like, it was an ensemble cast and blah, 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 this and that. But it was like, so I discovered Scrivener. And here's the thing I will say about that is you can write in Scrivener like you do with your Google Sheets. But what I like about it is like, all right, you're done with this chapter. So then you just open up another, not another doc, but like you add another page to it. You write in that chapter. Because then instead of going, oh, something happens with him here, move on to the next, excuse my language, fuck it. You just write out all of her storyline as much as you want. And then you can go in and, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, that chapter is done. And now you have her storyline here. Then you have his storyline down here. And then you just start like going, all right, this can go here, this can go here. And you can literally move entire chapters with just one index. You know what I'm saying? So it might be something to play around with, because Scrivener really, and it's only like $40 for Scrivener. I love Scrivener. But I used to do Google Docs, and if that really is your comfort zone, by all means, stay with your comfort zone. But if you're looking to expand, Scrivener really is a great. Same stuff with final draft. You know what I'm saying? You can write,
Mhm.
but it's like a $500 program. You know what I'm saying, or whatever they charge. And Scrivener's like 40, so I just go with Scrivener
Yeah.
because we're authors, we're not rich. There was something I had taken notes down. Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes is a
Yes.
whole book on how to
And
write.
I think it's out of print in print form. Like, I don't know that you can get a hard copy, but you can definitely still get the ebook. And so I have it right on my Kindle and kind of go back to it and say, okay, there's also on her website, there's downloadable resources to get the format for the beat sheets. And so you can pull those directly down from the website. Super user friendly, really good resource if you just want to understand the structure of romance novels and how to work within those expectations.
No. That is wonderful. What I write is not what you write. No. Don't get me wrong. I love a happy ending to read, to watch, to write, not so much. I'm not a happy ending guy in almost anything I do. And my readers yell at me for it sometimes, but it's just part of the story. I have to ask, so you speak some Latin, or at least you speak
I was supposed to.
a few words of it, except when you're under pressure. You were on Jeopardy.
I was, yes.
And this was after Alex Trebek passed, or was he still the host?
No, I was on with the man himself, Alex Trebek. I taped in late 2018 and aired in early 2019. So that was when he was still behind the podium. I have my souvenir photo with Alex. That will be my my thing from Jeopardy for the rest of my life, which is very exciting.
Now, he seemed like in some of the interviews and stuff like a very nice man, and I'm not here to talk about, but he was as nice as he seemed.
He was. He did
Okay.
make fun of me because my last name, as we talked about at the beginning, that is wacky to pronounce, is French. And so he's from Canada, grew up in Quebec, so he speaks French fluently. And the French pronunciation of my last name is actually Langevin. And so he was like, why would you not pronounce it correctly? It sounds so nice in French. Why are you saying it in this weird American way? It's like, listen, it's my husband's last name. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, so Alex Trebek made fun of the way I pronounce my name.
Yeah, no, but he always, like, you saw him do it on the show, and he always did it though with like a don't take things so seriously type stuff. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was just such a fun thing. I always wanted to be on Jeopardy, and then I realized when I'm under pressure like that, no way. Like when you're doing a couch coaching, you know what I'm saying? Oh my God, it's so easy. I know half.
How did they miss that one? Yep.
Yeah, and then like you're like when you're under pressure like that to answer questions, you're like, I don't know, 2 + 2 is like 5. No, 3, 4,
Maybe
5.
now.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Simple.
The wildest thing about the show is that because obviously at that point people have been through multiple rounds of auditions, you've taken tests, like most of the people who are playing know their shit. So when you put the question up, it's half, do I know the answer? But it's also, can I buzz in on time? So there's all kinds of like mechanics with when you can ring in. There's lights that you cannot, so there's lights like at the top of the clue. You can't ring in until the lights go off. If you ring in too early, they lock you out for a beat so that another person can come in and get in front of you. So it's this weird combination of skills that you have to know a lot of random stuff, be able to recall it under pressure, and be able to recall it under pressure while you're also playing with this like device that you may or may not have had practice with. But when you go to the audition, they actually gift you a pen to like mimic the buzzer. So it has the red cap like the buzzer does. So you can practice ringing in case you get called to be on the show.
Oh my God. They give you a pen to practice just in
They
case you get
do.
called. There is some serious stuff there. Was it a good experience? Was it something?
It was.
Because
And some of it, I think, depends on who you get in like your taping group. So you're there for a day. They shoot 5 episodes back to back. It's a wildly different rhythm than you think it is when you see it on TV. But I had the good fortune of playing with 2 other really wonderful players. I'm still in touch with both of them. So it's nice to, make those connections with people that you share this really weird one-off experience with. And there's also different like online communities of Jeopardy contestants. So I've been able to meet other folks who are on the show at different times. And that's a nice like community that gets formed around this odd experience that you've had of being on a quiz show on national TV.
So, okay, I have so many questions now about that because like these community of like Jeopardy players online or contestants online. Now, would Ken Jennings still be part of that, or has he been separated because he's now the host?
I don't know that Ken was ever a part of like any of the Facebook groups or things like that. Ken did, and I haven't checked recently. I also have played in an online trivia league called Learned League. It's a very competitive online trivia league, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true. And a number of some of the like Jeopardy super champs have been a part of Learned League at different points over the years. So there's still some connection back to like the active trivia community in that way.
Jeopardy's always had this weird allure like that because I don't know if there is, but I can't really fathom an online community for like Price is Right contestants. You know what I'm saying?
So.
Like, wow, we were up on Contestants Row. Let's all join this Facebook group. Be like billions of people. But like Jeopardy is a very kind of niche, like you made it to there on the show and stuff. And it's not easy either. It's not
it's a process.
Yeah, even just the simple test to like, oh, I'm going to call up Jeopardy. The first test you take is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. So congrats on making that there.
Thank you.
Part of your profile that I get tossed mentions that, and I'm asking this because I'm also kind of in a boat with a loss of probably a different sort, but same organ, hearing loss.
Mm-hmm.
But you've had it your whole life, didn't find out about it till you were 41?
Yes.
So like a couple months ago. I don't know, you don't look like you're in your 40s at all, so there's that.
Well, thank you. No, I found out late last year. I was actually diagnosed with fairly significant hearing loss, and it was a really interesting process. I was having a lot of like ringing in my ears, so I was like, I should probably go get this checked out. Went to see the audiologist, get all the testing done, and she's like, well, yes, they can see what's going on with the ringing in your ears. You just kind of have to wait it out. She's like, but you also have significant mid-range hearing loss. What do you mean? So she shows me my audiogram, which is the picture of what is going on with your hearing. And I have this pattern where I can hear things that are on the low end, things that are on the high end, and then I lose the middle. And it's called cookie bite hearing loss. It sounds cute, it's not. But it's this really weird pattern that your brain can learn to compensate for because you hear lower frequencies, you hear higher frequencies. So it kind of pulls from both of those and makes up what's in the middle, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so your brain can compensate for it for a really long time. But the problem that you have with it is that human speech is what falls in the middle. So that tends to be part of what you lose first over time as your brain can't quite, keep going at the same speed that it did before, is that speech starts to get muddled. So after we went through this whole process of diagnosis, I got fitted for hearing aids. I've been wearing them for about 8 months now. I've been a hearing aid user, and it's amazing to me the things that I didn't know. The one that absolutely immediately almost drove me off the edge was like, why is our microwave so loud? And my husband's like, that's what it's always sounded like. I'm like, it must have just fallen in the range that my brain couldn't perceive the right way. And so I was like, oh my, how do you listen to that? Like, it was so startling to me how much louder that part of the world was. So it's been a really interesting process.
No, I understand what it's like to at least from a different aspect, when I first got glasses, I was much younger, and I was anti. I was like, I don't need them. I don't need them. And then, you know, I was like in junior high. My just like, go try them on. Let's just go. And you put them on, and like all of a sudden you see it, and you just see things. You know what I'm saying? For you to hear things that you never heard before.
Absolutely.
I have hearing loss, but it's not cookie bite hearing loss or anything like that. It is literally certain frequencies, and then like 1 hertz higher, 1 hertz lower, I can hear fine. But like one random frequencies,
Yep.
can't hear at all. But
Ooh.
like again, 1 hertz higher, 1 hertz lower, I'm totally fine. But I have I can't filter noises like other people can.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's talking to me and there's any other noise, if they don't speak up above it, they'll be on the same, you know what I'm saying?
It's
like
lost,
same level as it. And so my wife's constantly like talking louder. And then if there's no noise, I'm like, babe, why are you yelling at me? And she's like, I'm not. I'm like,
5 minutes ago.
yeah. I'm like, but there's no noise right now. And she's like, seriously, I can't. this is the volume I talk at because you deal. And so like sometimes she's talking to me and I'll be like covering my ears and I'm like, it's not you, it's my ears. And so I'm very sorry that you had to do that. And I got tested in this. I was very skeptical of getting audio stuff done because I got this test and this guy was like, oh, you need hearing aids. And I'm like, okay. And so he gives me like a sample hearing aid to try on.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurt. It hurt. It wasn't like, oh, I can hear noises now. Everything sounded tinny and mechanical.
And much louder. Yep.
And to the point that it hurt my ears. And I was like, no, I'm good. Because I didn't hear anything new.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear anything new. Like it wasn't like, oh, the microwave. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, all I heard was louder noises that hurt my ears and they all sounded tinny. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I don't need a hearing aid. I just need to be a better focused listener.
Filterer. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm a great listener. If someone's got a problem, come to me. I'll talk to you about it. But if there's noise, you got to just speak up.
Yep.
Like, so no. And is that part of, because I did read on your profile that you do have an autoimmune. Is that your autoimmune or is that something different?
They don't know. So I do also have an autoimmune condition. It's called psoriatic arthritis. And basically it's like if you had psoriasis on your skin, but it's in my joints instead. So when they talk about the idea that autoimmune diseases like travel in packs, that when you have one, you probably have others because it's a systemic kind of thing. So they've said that it could potentially be a part of an autoimmune reaction, or it might just be a genetic thing, and they're not quite sure which it is. So we are like in the process of making sure that other people in my family get evaluated and see where is this thing coming from. But it's an interesting kind of confluence of a few different factors that are competing for attention, if you will.
No. I understand completely. I am Mediterranean and my whole family has some sort of autoimmune except for me so far. So knock on wood that I stay that way. So tell us, there's a lot of listeners out there who are going to hear this and want to read your books because of what the books were about, not because of our hearing loss issues. Where can we find you online, follow you, buy your books? Give us the whole shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, so my website is just my name, SusieLangevin.com. There you can find links to all of my work that's for sale. My books with Rowan are both linked from there. I have a couple of self-published holiday novella titles that are available through there as well as a bunch of anthologies that I've been a part of. So you can get all the info and all of that on my website. I do post pretty frequently on Instagram. So that's usually the best place to find me. I'm there at Susie Langevin Writes. I'm also on TikTok at the same, but my TikToks are, mostly me lip syncing to silly stuff. So if that's your bag, come join me. But info about my books, you're much more likely to find on my Instagram page.
I love it. So the lip syncing head on down to TikTok, everything else Instagram. We are mostly an audio channel. So for anyone listening who doesn't know how to spell Susie Langevin, it's Susie with the ZY, and Langevin is Langev as in Victor, IN, Langevin.
Got it.
And that's only because, we record this for the one channel, which is YouTube, where we have video. Everything else is audio only. So go, everyone listening, go follow her, give her some love and increase her followership. Just don't become a stalker. Stalkers are bad. Yeah. I've had some. They're weird. My stalker was nice though. She was just interesting, and that was a long, long time ago.
Have you ever heard the story about how Robert Pattinson, who was in Twilight, had a woman who was like stalking him on the internet? So he took her out to dinner and was as boring as humanly possible so that this woman would just leave him alone. It's like, that's an interesting strategy.
Okay. I'm slightly disappointed in you. He is such a better actor than the Twilight series leads one to believe. Robert Pattinson is probably, and arguably, and I will be crucified for saying this, the best Batman there was. And I am a huge Michael Keaton fan. I liked Robert Pattinson better. He was great in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Listen, I am right there with you on the Robert Pattinson is fantastic train. As a romance girly at heart, he will always be Edward.
Oh, there are certain roles I think that actors can be known for and be proud of. You know what I'm saying? Any of the Friends cast. I do not think that's it for him. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger as any of his, you know, action roles. You know, Rocky. You know, for Sly. The whole cast of How I Met Your Mother as any of those. I do not think Robert Pattinson wants to be known for his Twilight roles. I'm just throwing it out there. But as a romance author, I understand that is where you're, you know, referencing him to and stuff. But yeah, I'm just like, I have to defend certain actors.
I get it.
Same with what's her face from there, Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, and that movie does not show that off.
No, go watch The Happiest Season. I don't think the word does in there. Great holiday movie if you've never seen it. But that is up on whatever Netflix or whatever.
Whichever streamer has it today.
Yeah, whatever streamer has the current licensing rights to it. But no, I want to thank you for being here. Everyone, go follow her. Go buy her books. Show her some love. Thank you so much for your time. Before we leave, is there anything that I forgot to ask or anything that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, well, we got to go down the Robert Pattinson rabbit hole, so that was a nice bonus. Although I will say that I have had the debate before if it is just strictly a millennial thing that vampires are like the best paranormal being, or if that's true of everybody, that vampires are just the best. But like when you're on the Anne Rice to Twilight pipeline, vampires have some serious cachet.
So here's an actual study that's been done about that.
I love this.
Because I've been working with some people who are either in or have been in Hollywood on my series, trying to get it adapted for, you know, like screen, either, you know, television or movie. And vampires have had a life cycle of about every 7 years ever since Nosferatu, the original.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely not something new with millennials. It is like a generational and every decade thing. They come about and they go in and out of fashion, and the life cycle is about 7 years. And they just keep doing it over and over and over again. Less common are the werewolves and the zombies and stuff like that, and the other supernatural and magical creatures, but they all kind of maintain this little peak interest here and here, but on much longer life cycles. Vampires rule, always have.
Love it. Thank you for the data point on this. Yeah. The data nerd in me is very excited.
Well, no, thank you very much for sharing so much about your books and about yourself. Everyone go follow her. And if you like the show, share it, follow us, like us, so that way more people can discover the show, discover the authors that come on the show and share themselves a little bit about themselves. And until next time, remember, it costs nothing to be kind. So be kind. See you.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.